Okay, now it's time to score our Batard. Batard is just another name for an oval-shaped loaf as opposed to a round loaf. If there's a little bit of water on the top that condensed, I just pat it off with a paper towel. And I dust it with a little bit of rice flour. And then this is just parchment paper. I buy it in rounds because I use it to make pizza, but it works good for bread too. You can use any kind of parchment paper. Just cut it off a roll, whatever you have. I wouldn't use wax paper because that will melt in the oven. Parchment paper is fine. So I'm brushing off a little bit of the excess rice flour from the inside of the banneton. Then I'm going to spray it with a little bit of water, just a light spray. And we're going to need to do at least one heavy gash through it to give it a chance to expand as it bakes in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 450 degrees. If you want to do a decorative score, this is the way I do it. This is, to me, the most fun part of making bread, is just playing with the designs on top. But that's just me. Putting a little bit of rice flour on helps the design to stand out. If you don't, then it kind of gets lost in the oven. So there's lots of different ways you can score it. You can use this is a very common one. It's made by Wire Monkey. You unscrew the two pieces, put your razor blade in, and then when you're putting it away, you just push it back in. But I find it a little, I've worn out 2 of these already, but sometimes it's hard to find the razor blade in there, and I've since gotten one like this that is a little easier. It has a bigger screw to deal with. They're about $10 on Amazon, not a big deal. I saw somebody on YouTube have a razor blade like this with the sharp edges, which I thought was great for making designs. I couldn't find razor blades shaped like that, and I found out what she does is take a regular blade like this and cuts the V shape with scissors. Be very careful if you're going to do that. Another option, probably much safer, is to use an X-Acto knife. I've done that for very intricate designs. But for instruction purposes and practical purposes, you can just use a painter's razor blade that you get at Home Depot, and that's what I'm going to use for my score today. It works fine. You can use a serrated knife or even a pair of scissors and just clip some holes in the top to make a little design. I dip it in water to make the blade glide through the dough a little easier. And something I sometimes will do is take a toothpick. If I'm doing a more complicated design, I'll take a toothpick and draw where I'm going to go with my design, and it kind of helps me plan it out. This is going to be a pretty simple design, just keeping it easy. And the thing with doing it this way, if you don't like the way it came out the first time, you can just brush it and do it again, erase what you put in there. So I'm not really cutting the dough with this, I'm just leaving a mark for directions of where I want to do my design. And then you're only going to go about 1/4 of an inch deep on this. You don't want to go too deep or it will split. I'm one of those fortunate people that's a little bit ambidextrous, so I can use both sides equally. Well, in some cases, not equally, but I'm basically left-handed, but when I do sourdough, I use both hands. We're going to put this in the oven at 450 degrees, covered for 20 minutes. Then we'll remove the cover and bake it another 20 minutes with the cover off. I don't use a Dutch oven anymore. I used a Dutch oven for years, but it's heavy and I don't like bending over and lifting it. And I found out I get just as good results by using this pizza pan with a large pan turned over the top of it. First of all, we got to do the gash for our ear. This is very important. Now, these scores were all light and just 1/4 of an inch deep. This one's going to be about 1/2 inch deep. You want a good deep score so it can expand. So go ahead and bury that razor blade. And you can go through a second time if you want to just really make sure you've cut all the way through. You want to kind of hold it at a 45-degree angle to give it a good ear. I will say this loaf is a little bit overproofed, so it's probably not going to get as high as they usually do. I let it go about 1/2 hour too long. It only needed about 1.5 hours in the bulk ferment stage, and I let it go 2 hours, so that's not going to give me a real tight loaf. So this is ready to go into the oven right now, and I will come back when 20 minutes is up. Hello again. My Batard has been in the oven for 10 minutes.
It's been in the oven for 20 minutes.
Take the lid off now. And this is what we have. I'm going to give it an extra score. This is optional, just to try to help it to open up a little more. Like I said, this loaf was overproofed, so it's not rising as well as I would have hoped. It'll be all right. It's just not going to be a big puffy loaf like I would like it to be. But this will help it to expand just a little bit more. And then it goes back in the oven for another 20 minutes at 450 degrees. I'll be back. Okay, it's been 20 minutes in the oven with the lid off, and as you can see, that extra score really kind of helped it open up. There is a very simple, easy score, easy to do, a beautiful loaf to have with dinner, share with a friend. You can do this. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you try this. Send me a photo if you do. Would love to see it.